Bienvenidos, welcome Nogalenses, fronterizos, friends. Welcome to our show. We're on a different day than we usually do, but that's because we've got really something really cool and exciting to talk about, and this is really cool to share. And we'll get into it. But first, of course, I want to welcome you. If you are watching this on Facebook right now, or if you're watching it on YouTube, just take a moment to share, spread the word, let other people know what we're doing. Welcome to my guest, Renee Travers again. 2 weeks in a row, right?
I think I like it here.
Okay. And?
I'm Terry Sprague, from the County School Superintendent's office.
Okay, from Alfredo's office. Awesome. We're always love to have people from the city and from Alfredo's office here. We're huge fans of the Santa Cruz Superintendent of Schools. I got tongue-tied there for a moment. I hate when that happens. So before we get into news or anything, let's talk about some events that are coming up. Tomorrow, there's a Child Abuse Awareness Walkathon, right? And that's going to be at Pearson from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. And so do you guys, you know what's going on about this? I mean, I don't know a lot of details. I mean, this was handed to me just before.
It's an awareness event.
Okay.
And then there'll be agencies there sharing resources, and I think a lot of people have signed up for it.
Okay.
It's not a contest.
No, it's just
walking to create that awareness.
Okay. Very cool. Also, we've got on Saturday, this is a packed month, right? Like there's so much going on. We talked about that last week, spring, summer comes around and all of a sudden weekends are full.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So this Saturday on April 15th at La Línea Art Studio, we love La Línea Art Studio here, at the Wishing Wall, and it's going to be an exhibition of art by David Fernandez, local artist David Fernandez, and there's going to be live music. One of my favorite local bands, Las Nostrovia, is going to be there, and that starts at 6 p.m. Then, the day after, we've got the open mic anniversary, 1 year anniversary of the open mic at the Hilltop Gallery with Nogaleria. Nefty's another huge friend of the show. I actually got to participate in the open mic last night, right? I helped poetry, actually.
Good job.
So I actually, and it was really nerve-wracking because I've done public speaking engagements. I do the show, talk to people, interview people all the time, but I've been writing for 30 years, right? Since I was like 6 years old, like that. I'm writing poetry, and this is the first time I've actually read it public.
See, I've toyed with that idea because I'm a writer too, but since it's so personal, I think that's why it's much more difficult.
But I felt like I needed to be vulnerable for a little bit, and it was a cool opportunity. And of course, I knew a lot of people there, so it's not like everybody was a stranger. But it was a really cool event. So that's this Sunday from 2 to 6 p.m., and there's going to be food.
That's always a good thing.
Food is good.
Hilltop Gallery, huge event, lots of incredible local talent, musicians, artists, and that's Sunday, April 16th, 2 to 6 p.m. Then next week, we've got the Mingus Festival, which we talked about a little bit about last week. If you guys didn't watch last week's episode, you do need to watch it now because we talked about a lot of this stuff, Renee and I. Mingus Festival is such a cool event. It's going to start at 11 a.m. We'll probably get into more of that on next week's show, but it's pretty cool stuff. And then, of course, the big event that's coming up is the Nogales Marathon and Health Fair. And Fiesta de las Flores. So this is the Nogales Marathon in the morning, 22 days, like 15 hours and 30 seconds, something like that. If you go to Cero Estres's website, you will see the exact to-the-second countdown. But there's still time to register. Lots of teams have registered, but there's still time. You get a medal. And there's an incredible, cool health fair with lots of vendors. Okay. And then immediately after the marathon ends, Fiesta de las Flores starts. And that's just, it's...
Music, there'll be the crowning of the queens and the princesses, and lots of vendors have signed up. So it's great.
It's going to be cool. And it's all downtown, right?
Yeah, it's all be on Morley.
Morley, it's just like
at
last
Caron
year.
Park, yes.
So it's going to be a packed Saturday. That's cool. So much to do. I mean, sometimes I like to relax, though. Sometimes I like to just not go out.
Yet. Not quite.
Yeah. So, but speaking of things that are coming up, very cool, incredible things. Well, no, you know what? We didn't get into news real quick. Sorry. News really quick. We'll jump to the interview right now. So first off, there's a cold room. They added a new cold room at the port of entry. Now, the reason this is so significant, this is a big deal to me because I used to work with the FPAA, with the Fresh Produce Association of the Americas. I did a lot of their communications consulting and stuff. And this cold room is something that they've been fighting for years. The Port Authority and the FPAA together have been advocating for this cold room for a lot of years. And to have it finally open up is a really big deal, and hopefully it's going to bring in some new imports. It'll help preserve food while trucks are being inspected, for one thing, which is the biggest deal. And it'll hopefully some of the more perishable items that we don't usually get will be able to come through our port, which means more money for our community, more money for our state, and more money for our ports. Also, there's a community. So as we know, the world is kind of messed up right now, right? There's a lot of scary things happening, and especially for our students. It's a scary time to be a student in the United States. And there's going to be a community leadership study session coming up on April 27th. Now, this isn't a public event, but it's something that I think is cool for the public to know and understand. On the 27th of April, and the Department of Justice, or rather the National Center for School Safety, that's part of the Department of Justice, is coming from Michigan to be part of this study session here, and that's incredible. We've been fortunate enough that we've only had scares at our schools here, but I mean, we don't want that to ever turn into something.
As
And
much
if
as we
it
can.
and if it does ever happen, we want our schools to be prepared.
Absolutely.
All right. So on a much brighter note, let's jump into the interview. How you guys doing? Good. Yeah, comfortable.
Happy to be here. Comfy.
It's almost Friday. It's always a good thing.
Yeah, we've already got a show regular with us
Yeah,
right here.
see?
So, and Terry, how you feeling? How do you feel to be on the show?
I've done it before.
Just not with me.
Not with you.
Yeah. See, it's different with me.
It
it's
is.
better. It's better with me.
Well, Mr. Velasquez has the educational forum.
Yeah.
And then Chris Young is our
Moderator.
So I've done it then, but I love the new place.
I mean, Chris is cool. Don't get me wrong. I love Chris, but he's not me. I mean,
He's gonna hear this.
Yeah, I know. I'm talking to him specifically. You're hearing me, Chris. No, I do love the educational forum. It is a really, really cool thing, and I'm glad that you've been able to be a part of it. And it's so cool for the public to get that insight into the way that our county approaches education, and that there are always constantly looking for new ways to improve the way that our students learn. And I thank you for being part of that.
Yeah, thank you. Well, thank you.
Thank you. All right. But that's not what we're here to talk about. No, we're here to talk about this really, really cool speaking engagement. And it's an incredible redemption story. For you football fans, you may know who Vance Johnson is. Do you want to get into a little bit details about
Vance?
About Vance, sure.
I call him by first name now.
Yeah.
We have been with Martin Felix. He works for Justice of the Peace, Emilio Velasquez. And he had the opportunity to hear Vance speak. And so Martin wanted to have an event where our youth and our teens could listen to his story. Because it is a story of redemption. And surprisingly, it's a story of being at the top of your game. But if your mental health is not quite there, if you're not stable mentally, everything falls apart. And because May is Mental Health Awareness Month, I mean, I love this community because I called Renee. I've known Renee since she was like 12. And she's like, yes, let's do it. There are key people in this community that always say yes and always want to move forward and, do the best that we can with the little resources that we have. And so I almost brag that we get more done as a community just because of those connections we have. But I talk too much. I'm turning into
that's
my
what
mom.
That's what we're here for. We're here to talk all you want. More talking you do, the less I have to do. So just keep it going.
So back to Vance Johnson, and again, one of the things that I have to admit, I did not know who Vance Johnson was. When I looked back, he was playing for the U of A when I was at the U of A.
Wow.
But I'm not into sports. I'm not into, especially.
So you didn't date any athletes or anything like that?
No.
Wow.
I had classes with athletes that would just ask me for the notes, But Vance Johnson played for the U of A in the 80s, got drafted by the Denver Broncos, and he was in 3 Super Bowls. And the big thing about him is he played with 2 other guys. And I'm not doing it as a service because I don't know their names, but they were called the 3 Amigos. And so when they would
Google it.
Yes, look for that. And for a lot of people, the 3 Amigos doesn't mean much, but for us,
it means Martin Short, Chevy Chase.
Absolutely. You know all the moves, right?
So they would do that move that the 3 Amigos would do. They would do it on the field when they connected really well or made a real good play or scored a touchdown. And so they were called the 3 Amigos. And they were actually in 3 Super Bowls. They never won a Super Bowl.
I just had a memory unlocked. I've actually seen them do that. I was too young to watch them play really, but I've seen videos of them doing that. It just clicked in my head right now.
Yeah, so it was like a big thing.
Yeah.
Way back when. And so Chris Young, shout out to Chris, who's in our office. He is a huge fan of Vance Johnson, the 3 Amigos, the Denver Broncos. And so, this is sort of for him because it's the first time I've seen him so excited.
Wow.
And I've worked with him for almost 7 years.
Wow. And I just spent the first half of the show talking smack to Chris. Sorry, Chris. Sorry. I'm very, very happy for you.
So it's dedicated to him, but it's for the youth.
Yeah.
Because we want youth to hear that story. And underneath it all, underneath his struggle, his challenges, is that mental health piece. And, if you think about it, if mental health is not there, if you're not good with your mind, everything else falls apart.
So I've actually, this is a really, really cool subject for me because I deal with depression, I deal with anxiety and ADHD, and I've dealt with them my whole life. And I've spent the last 7 years just understanding the connection between the brain and the body. And the connection is that the brain is the body, right? Yes, exactly. I mean, we are our brain. Everything that is the body is there to keep the brain alive. Exactly. So if a part of the brain isn't functioning the way, the chemicals aren't transferring right, or signals aren't being sent right, the whole body suffers.
Exactly.
So I totally get this, and this is really, really cool. This is very cool. And so many of the mental health stories that have been coming out of NFL lately have been so depressing.
I know.
And so tragic. Mm-hmm. So to have this incredible happy redemption story, with tragedy too. I mean, there's tragedy in his story, absolutely. Mm-hmm. But to have the redemption arc as part of that is encouraging, inspiring even.
Yeah. And I think it's important for kids to hear it because if they are struggling with their mental health, or if they don't feel good about themselves, or if their mind is telling them negative thoughts, which the teenage brain does a lot of, then they need to know that there's help out there, and they need to know that they're not the only ones facing these issues. And the more awareness we create, I think the more open we'll be about it. So, mental health should be like when you get COVID or a sore throat or, a stomach ache. It's part of health in general. In fact, it's more important because your mind can make you sick and the stress can make you really sick.
No, and so Vance Johnson's connection to this community isn't just a speaking event. He actually grew up close. Like you said, he went to U of A with you.
He went to the U of A. He played at the U of A, not with me, but but he was there at the time that I was there. Mm-hmm. His parents lived in Fort Huachuca for a while. And we've been having like a little book study because we have some of these books to give out to kids.
Okay.
We have prizes.
Yeah, we'll have autographed footballs, different things to
So
raffle
cool.
off
Raffles.
for the students or the kids that do show up for the event.
And food.
And food. That's always a good thing, as we mentioned earlier.
Now, and this is next week, right?
This is next week, next
Okay.
Wednesday,
All right, what time?
2 to 4.
2 to 4.
Or no, 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2
I'm like,
2 weeks.
don't
2 weeks.
scare me.
Oh, no, that's true because it's the
Yeah.
26th, right?
It's the 26th.
The
26th,
26th from 2 to 4 at the Rec Center.
Yes.
Okay.
And you know, if you guys need information, Edgardo can put up our contact information, our phone numbers. These flyers are circulating around. But yeah, we're excited, and from I've never heard him speak, but we've Googled and we're stalking him, and he's an incredible speaker. He
That's
not
cool.
only does this in Arizona, but he speaks nationwide. And he is an ambassador for rehabilitation and for mental health.
Okay.
And you know, our youth has struggled so much, especially when COVID hit, that we saw a lot more depression cases.
Yeah.
And the fact that you're able to share that right now speaks volumes for where we are now. I mean,
Yeah,
a lot of us
absolutely.
have struggled with things, but it was one of those taboo things. We don't talk about it. And we want to ensure that our youth know that, hey, things happen, but there's help out there. And if you make a bad decision, we can still grow from that. And there's redemption, like you say, there's ways out of it.
There's hope.
Yeah, and making mistakes you make, there's a way out. Because, I mean, depression is hard enough, but it often leads us to making some pretty terrible
Right.
mistakes because we aren't able to process everything properly. But those mistakes aren't the end of the world.
Right.
There are ways back.
Always, always.
Upward and onward, right?
And there's help. That's the
And
big
there
thing.
is-
There's
so-
help. There's people here in our community that are here to help.
That's the next part that I wanted to get into about this event is that there's going to be actual help there. There's going to be behavioral health services and law enforcement, correct?
Agencies, law enforcement, a lot of people that just want to come out and see Vance.
Yeah,
that
of course.
just want to meet him but like for our program is called Promoting Healthy Students, and we have 2 wellness counselors that go to elementary schools, work with the kids. Every school has a counselor, and every counselor has a degree of training for mental health.
Yeah.
Load on their shoulders as well.
Yeah.
Of course.
The problem is if you don't, it's asking for that help.
Yeah.
That's the hard part. And so if we can normalize it and just make it, you know, something that we're open about, it means the world. Like you telling us, sharing your depression. I'm sure we all have stories, and we all have our tough times
Yeah.
in
It's
life.
just like everybody's caught a cold. Everybody's been depressed.
Yeah.
It's not unique to some people have chronic, just like some people have chronic illnesses, right? But there's nothing abnormal about it. It's a part of living.
It's a part of.
Overcoming that stigma of discussing it now.
Exactly.
And that's where we do want to reach out to the parents, saying support your kids. It's okay to talk about it, and it's okay to reach out for help. I know growing up, especially in our culture, it's one of those things, all our problems are here at home.
Yeah.
But, you know, we can't always solve the problems at home. So we do need that support from other resources, other agencies to help us
Absolutely.
climb that ladder back up.
Yep, absolutely. That's so cool. I'm glad that you guys are doing this. I think it's so cool that Vance Johnson is an advocate for this. This is and not just an advocate, but he's an activist even. He's actively working
Exactly.
on this building this awareness around the country.
And he does mention in the book that he's happier now doing this
Yeah.
than he was like at the height of his career.
Wow.
You have to find the things that make you happy.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I know countless stories of people who are wildly successful but aren't fulfilled, and they suffer from these issues that they aren't getting checked out. It's great that the awareness is building, that the stigma is falling.
Yes.
And that's what we're doing. We're just trying to break down that stigma and not letting it come back up.
Absolutely. So Wednesday the 26th from 2
2 to
to 4. 2 to 4. Okay. It's at the Hohokam Rec Center, right?
Yes, at the
Yes.
rec center
All
over
right.
there.
Very, very cool. Is there anything that you guys want to address the community directly? An invitation?
Absolutely. We invite you all out, especially all our teens, all our youth. Please come out and listen to this story and know that you're not the only one going through whatever you're dealing with.
One last thing that I'd forgotten to mention is we talked specifically about athletes. And there is in athleticism, there's a sense of bravado and a sense to keep a strong face, right?
Yes.
But this is proof that even athletes, the strongest of athletes, the most successful of athletes, can struggle. And there's nothing wrong with seeking help. So we hope to see, even if you're not currently suffering from depression, we hope to see you at the event.
Absolutely.
And
Welcome, everyone.
hopefully the story will be inspiring and motivational, and our kids will get to hear that message.
Exactly. We'll look forward to doing more of this
Yes.
for our community.
That's
Definitely.
awesome. So we're going to wrap, but I do have one last question, and this might be the most important question of the interview. So you've been part of the educational forum, right? But I'm a better interviewer, right?
Oh, than Chris?
Yes. You
No.
can say it. You can say it. You can say
No,
it.
to me, Chris is like amazing.
All right, Chris.
He's one of our best.
You won this round. You
one
won this
of our
round.
best people in town is Chris.
He really is.
Yeah.
He really, really, truly
really
is.
is.
Truly is. Okay, I'll give it to him this time.
So
All right,
then
that's fine.
you're right, a little under Chris.
Okay, thank you. That's a good place to be. That's a good place to be. I mean, if he's right here and I'm right here, that's okay.
That's good.
That's
Exactly.
acceptable to me.
There's
All
not
right.
a huge gap,
Okay.
see? So you're
All
good.
right, we're good, Chris. All right. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
I
Thank you.
really,
for
really
having us,
appreciate
though.
you guys coming out and talking about this and organizing this event. Again, Renee, thank you for all of the events that you've got
Thank you.
organized.
I know.
She really can't say no, right? She just
She
says no to
can.
everything.
It's
Says yes to
great.
everything. I mean, yeah, just boom, boom, boom. So yeah, thank you guys so much. Thank you guys for tuning in. This was a great interview. I really like talking to you guys.
It was fun.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right, we'll see you guys next week.